This is going to be a little bit different kind of video because so many of my videos really center around my wife who passed away from alcohol use disorder in February of 2020. And so much of it is the core issue when I talk about the drama and the toxicity and really the madness that ensued because of this disease. I haven't made a video like this in a while because it's important to understand that with every person, there's the person and then there's the disease, and separating those two things can quite often be very difficult if you're so close to it and all you ever see is and experience is the disease, and you only see the person occasionally when they've been to a rehab or they've been incarcerated and they've been for whatever reason they've been able to stay away from alcohol for 4 months, 2 months, 1 month, and they've returned temporarily. This has always been the heartbreaking part of it that families go through, because you can see that person and really quite often they're a very dynamic person, very loving, empathetic person, and then the alcohol takes over again, they regress and they're right back to where they were. And it's important to separate those two, because I'm going to talk a little bit more about my wife because she really was a very empathetic, loving person, and I need to expose that a little bit as well. And for those who follow me, you're very well versed on my story. Again, I was married for 25 years. And when I first met my wife, it was funny. She was very feisty. I met her, we were in the insurance business, and I actually met her at work. I remember the first time we had a leaderboard because it was a sales office. And she'd only been there a couple of weeks, and I'd been there for a couple of years, and I was probably one of the top salesmen in the place, so I probably had a bit of an attitude then. I was, 29 years old at the time, and I can remember they would list the names of the new reps on the board, and had never even met her. I didn't even know her name, and her last name was Dingle, and I remember looking at the board going, Dingle? Who the hell's Dingle? What kind of name is Dingle? And she was standing really literally right next to the board going, hey, I'm Dingle. You got a problem with that? I was like, oh, no, I'm quite okay. And it was funny because she was so different than the other people in the office. I mean, she was extremely well dressed. She had a background in design, clothing design. That was actually her college degree. I mean, she had makeup, hair, makeup. I mean, she was just dressed impeccably. And it was like a little intimidating, and she had these piercing blue eyes, very beautiful girl. And I said, okay, sorry. And I remember walking away going, oh my God, she's way above this. She's going to be around here for about a month, and she proved us all wrong. She ended up being the top salesman in that part of the office. We had two sides, and she was the top salesperson in that office because she had this personality that could just kind of, wrap somebody's finger around it. She didn't talk about the product, and it was, inside sales. We had to go to people's homes, and she had the ability to really get to know that person. And she would talk about, cooking recipes, and we dealt with the senior population. So it was usually you were coming in from like being a daughter or a son, because, we were in our late 20s, early 30s, and they were 70, 80, 90 years old. And she would talk about just whatever they wanted to talk about for the half hour. And then she would kind of go, oh, this is what you get. This is what you get, and sign here. And I mean, it was just like, I remember going with her sometimes going, I've been trying to get this lady for, 3 months, and you just walked in the door. And so much of it was attitude and presence and self-esteem, because she had a lot of that. And that really goes counter to, how it went down the road and how she ended up as, really this raging alcoholic later in life. And it's a sad story. I'm going to continue. And on a personal note, we were the best of friends. We did everything together. I mean, we ate, slept. We had a home in Canyon Lake. We ended up buying this home on the water. We had a boat. We had a wonderful life. We had 2 dogs, a couple cats, and before our son was born, which was 5 years into our marriage, we had a lot of friends came over. We really had a wonderful life for someone in their 30s. I think 30s were probably one of the most exciting, fun times of our lives. And there really wasn't anything to worry about. We just went to work. We worked hard, and we played hard, and we traveled around the world. I mean, our honeymoon, we went to England. We went to San Juan Capistrano. We went to New York several times, Florida, Gettysburg. We went all over the place. Those few years before my son was born, and it was really an idyllic time for both of us. And that lasted really most of our marriage until it really broke down the last 6 or 7 years. So to really conclude this kind of video, so many people ask me, why did you stay? And it was, you have to realize, I mean, there was such a deep friendship between us, and love, obviously, between us. And it's really sad because she would be there and then she'd be gone, certainly in the last few years. And there was a lot of anxiety that went on with her childhood and the culture that she had grown up in. And some of it was genetic with her. And it was always very confusing as her spouse because because everything was really quite well between us and our life, and there was always this outside influence and these things that happened long before I ever met her. And it's a sad story, but it's one that I tell because I want to help other people, because so many people are in the same situation, and rarely do alcoholics and families of alcoholics get to hear the side of the family. Because it's a family disease, and it's a voice that needs to be heard, as this story and things related to it needs to come out of the closet, and it needs to be pushed out into the world so that we have a higher and a better understanding of what goes on and the complications that go on with relationships and families when you're dealing with alcohol use disorder. And again, I have a complete coaching program. It's called There's an Alcoholic in the Family. Link is in the bio. Again, it takes about 45 minutes. We do a Zoom call. We go do a deep dive into what's going on with you and your family. The call is free. The course definitely is not. But I'm looking for people who want to change their lives and the lives of their family. There's a real good commitment level, and I've changed the lives of very many people. And again, thanks so much for listening.